Hello there, human tippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too, welcome back to the channel. I'm Bushka, and today we're finally getting around to talking about this wee little number, the T22 Medium. Now, let's be honest, it's mostly been talked about in a very, very, not disdain. People love the tank because the tank is exceptionally good. And I've been chatting a little bit of late with Rolling Storm and Meadsy and pretty much Martin Dogger and Amanet, Skate. Everyone seems to think the same thing about this tank. It's just too good. And one of the big issues that we're going to come up against with this tank is in the competitive scene. There are already clans out there running the T22 in all tournaments and competitive play. Just an absolute buttload of T22s and Foch autoloaders, because those are in organised areas. These are the kind of tanks that can be exceptionally good. And the thing that this tank most reminds me of is a pre-nerf T62 on steroids, which is a crazy idea. And I'm going to break it down for you right now. Firstly, we're going to look at the armor profile, which is pretty crazy. It's got way too much going for it. And we're going to compare it directly with the Object 140 and the T62A, because those two tanks are very much the tanks that are similar both in terms of gunplay, damage output, and purportedly armor profile when you look at the T22 Medium. Let's have a little chat about our amigo, the T22. The obvious thing straight away is the profile of the tank is incredibly low and incredibly well armed.
I recorded this earlier.
T62A.
Can you tell?
You are the same height as a T62A, but you have a Redonkulous Turret. The turret is gorgeous.
Great choice of words.
The front of the tank is a
Pike.
very, very odd pike nose shape, which is pretty rare for a medium tank. But it still has over 200 millimeters of armor straight on. So if you get it up slightly angled, you can get it up to 260. And if you're really in the face of people and they're trying to shoot down and you're angling and jiggling, you can get very easy auto bounces, because you can see when you're up close and personal, they can't quite get the gun down if they don't have a lot of gun depression. That's a 62A's 5 degrees trying to get down and hit it. They just can't. Not very successfully anyway. But the real key here is when we have a look at the sides of the tank. It has spaced armor. It has a spaced armor skirt all the way around the edges. And then the internals of that are actually, if we just show that internals, look at it, it's like a V. It's like a V, which means that you have a plate here that's 80 millimeters, but it's quoting up just massively enhanced numbers, because obviously if we go back to the penetration thing here, that side armor can become an auto bounce zone. You've got to go through tracks and you've got to go through spaced armor on the side of it. So all in all, the armor profile is redonkulous for a tier 10 medium.
Yes, well said, Bushka.
And I'm going to show you an example of that right here. This is a bit of gameplay where they don't use premium ammo, and indeed one of the tanks is a 4202, and he doesn't have a high-pen premium round on him at the time. And these guys don't play it particularly well, but this is the kind of situation that you used to feel like when you were running old school T54s and T62As against other mediums, where you could really get in their face and brawl. It's like a tier 11 tank. Spaced armor. The mobility is a little bit under your 62s and your 140s, but God, the turret is nigh on impenetrable. Like, you can go hull down with this thing and absolutely dominate, because the DPM is just about the same as our mates, the 140s and the 62As, which are renowned as their real calling card is their damage per minute numbers. The 62As at 3591, so is the 140, and the DPM on the T22 Medium is at 3505. Now, they are all around the same in terms of pen, all around the same in terms of rate of fire. They're all 100mm guns. The shell velocity on the 22 admittedly is not spectacular, but that's more in line with the fact that the 62A and the 140 are extraordinarily good with their shell velocity. Your aim time is a little bit above, but your dispersion is better than the 140s, and your gun depression is better than the 62As. It's quite hilarious to me that this tank is in a crate. I don't like crates, and I find this pretty annoying, having to have this conversation again and again. The other day, I mean, I get idiots that carry on. When I call wargaming out on things, these guys never say a word. If I tell them that there's a tank that's too strong, they whinge and moan and bitch because I'm going to get their favourite tank nerfed. And then if, you know, like, honest to God, these guys are just so upset about everything in the world. There's no way I can make everyone happy at the same time. I've often spoken out and said that I'm against crate tanks, but I understand that that is the way the industry works right now. And there's not much I can do about that. But at the same time, this thing... I mean, the other day when I had a crack about the Foch, and I didn't say that the Foch was the most blatantly overpowered thing in the world. I got people on there screaming and moaning, but I drove the tank a lot, and I got the same kind of numbers that I got running it without an autoloader. And my feeling is that the tank was already very strong, and that the autoloader is, in platoon and in organised play, a stronger gun, like in tournament play, but in standard public games, I feel like it's close to a wash, maybe a little bit better than normal Foch round, but that's my opinion. And I got people yelling and screaming about this. I don't want to be trying to please all people all the time, because obviously that's impossible, but I'm just going to give an honest opinion every time I do a video. Some people don't like that, and so they grind an agenda saying that I am influenced by wargaming and all that kind of thing. I got to tell you, I have multiple YouTube channels now, and I make a whole lot less money from the World of Tanks Blitz channel than I make from my PUBG Mobile channel. But I do World of Tanks Blitz because I still love the game, and I've got a great community here of people that I've been playing with forever, and I have a good time. So I'm not about to stop doing it, and I'm not about to change the way I talk about the tanks, but you need to understand that not everyone thinks the same thing about all tanks. I thought the Foches were horrible when they first came out, and Skate loved them. Measy thinks the autoload's really OP, and I don't. And this is the beautiful thing about the game that we play. It is very varied in terms of play style. It is literally all things to all men. You play it the way you want to play it. But I don't feel like I'm going out on a limb saying that this thing is silly, and it's just too good. And if you don't agree with that, fair enough, but I think I've presented a pretty solid case for why it's too good. The armor, the DPM, there's no doubt, like, you don't suffer DPM wise for having what is probably the best or second best armor profile at the tier, along with the E50M. But you know, the gun is more than capable of doing things. And that side armor, you can reverse side scrape this tank, which is crazy. And I've done it a bunch of times. You can really reverse side scrape it because your sides are so steep. That V shape and the skirting and the tracks means that you can act like the tank has a rear mounted turret. It's like driving an IS-8 that's a medium with better DPM and a lower caliber gun. I don't like the idea that this is a crate tank at all. And I feel like this is the worst part of crate tanks. Like, there's a lot of tanks out there that are like the M60, which is basically an M4801 pattern. Like, there's not a whole lot of difference. The AMX-30B, which is a nice tank, but again, it doesn't feel the same way this feels. The 121B, which is just a different take on a WZ-121. I don't feel like it's that much better, but this thing feels far too strong. If you don't agree with that, that's fine. Leave your comments below and give us your reasons why, and that's all good. And if you do think that this is a bit strong, then, you know, hats off. It's not a hard decision to come to. That brings up a whole other kettle of fish, like the T22 Medium, if it's allowed in tournament play, like if in, you know, then it would obviously be a game breaker. This is quite possibly the best example of a pay-to-win vehicle there is in terms of tournament play, because this is the medium that I think a lot of people can set up in tournament play and win with. If you can find somewhere that doesn't need gun depression as a hull down spot and send 3 or 4 T22 mediums there, like, they're as good as a great heavy tank with massive DPM. Like, it's right back to the old days of Blitz where we had a whole bunch of 140s running around. all that said, like, I also understand the thinking from wargaming, and I've talked a lot with people in the gaming industries, not just wargaming, but other gaming companies, and well, there is a real, like the way wargaming isn't alone, is what I'm saying. This is the standard way of monetizing games. Massive amounts of microtransactions, and crates are far and away the best way for gaming companies to stay afloat. And unless they're massive, like Tencent and PUBG Mobile or something, where they've got like 100 million accounts a month logging in, then gaming companies have to be very, very to pay the wages and pay the bills. This is the accepted mode from within the gaming industry. It's a really weird thing to have happening, but this is the world we're living in now. It's an odd one, and I don't have the answers. I really don't have the answers. I don't think there are any simple ones. I'm Bushka. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, look after yourselves and stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.